Hello and welcome to Moist Nougat. I am the kid. Uh, Going to start off by saying happy birthday to my niece Faith. She's going to be 9 years old tomorrow. Um, which leads me to I recorded Saturday, but as I typically do, I got sidetracked, started too late. I was basically half falling asleep towards the end of it. Listened back to it, watched the video back. I mean, it's okay, except the video's a little worse because my eyes are like half closing at the end. So needless to say, I'm probably scrapping all that, and I'm redoing this on a Tuesday evening, which I want to be a little more flexible anyways, in case I have a guest or something like that. I'm not going to be locked down to just Saturdays. I just can't do it on a Wednesday for the next day because I need some time to edit and do that kind of stuff. But the Broncos beat the Chiefs 24-9 this past Sunday. I know I've talked about it before. It's first time in 8 years. So I was in a pretty good mood. And they actually, well, not this past weekend. It was the weekend before because they were off this past weekend. They had their bye week this past weekend. So I was in a pretty good mood all last week. I know we're not, Super Bowl contenders or anything like that, but getting that monkey off our back, beating a team that we've lost 16 straight to was nice. The weather right now is just friggin' ridiculous. Was in like the 50s last week, and getting down into like the upper 20s, low 30s at night, which is I like that kind of weather. But we're back into almost the 80s this week. And it's just ridiculous. Sitting out there today outside, and the gnats and little bees, which we didn't have any little bees around out there all summer long, and all of a sudden, I guess it's just they're discombobulated. But just it's November, man. It's time to cool off. Not only that, it just screws with my allergies so bad. Pardon me. That's what happens is my allergies. That's why I'm drinking tea. But I don't know if anybody's ever used a neti pot. It's basically my wife and I. She doesn't use it, but she coined the phrase. It's a nose douche. So anytime my allergies are really bad, I feel like it's like I got to douche my nose. So that's kind of a joke, but it's not a pleasant thing to do. Basically, you're spraying water in one nostril and it's coming out the other nostril. And it's supposed to clean you out, but it barely works for me. Anyways, the mini Cobalt toolbox is out of stock. I don't know, I saw it on TikTok or something. And it's like 10 inches. It's got two drawers and the top opens, and it's only like 6 inches deep. And I'm like, I have this thing for like, I think I've talked about it before. Things that are, bigger than they're supposed to be or smaller than they're supposed to be. And I look at Lowe's and they're only like $20. I'm like, well, that's actually not bad, but I don't really know if I have a use for it. And the more I thought about it, and it said they had them in stock. The more I thought about it, I'm like, so I got my measuring tape out and I was like measuring underneath my computer. I have a bookshelf, and I'm like, actually, it would fit in there nicely. And there's some things that I have just sitting on top that it gets so dusty in here. I would like to actually put them in something so they don't collect all the dust, and that would work perfect. But of course, they're out of stock. I'm seeing them on like eBay and shit for like $50 and $60. So I don't know if it was a one-off thing and all these people went out and bought them and now they're gouging people. It's bullshit, Buy what you need. Don't try to make money off other people. That in that sense, that's the same thing as if a hurricane passes through and the hardware stores doubled the price on generators and things like that. It's gouging. But it is what it is. So I'll just wait and see if they come back in stock. And like I said, I don't need one. But once even if I went down there that day, they didn't have all the colors in stock because I think they have. And I know I'm going long about a stupid fucking toolbox, but they're kind of neat and it would work perfect for like what I was talking about. But they have like the cobalt blue. They had a red. They had a green, which is my wife's green color that she's into. They had a pink one. They had a gray one, a black one, and a white one, I believe. All of them out of stock. Out of stock. And Saturday when I was recording, what I was going to talk about was daylight savings time. Because basically at 2 o'clock Sunday morning, you change your clocks. And I know it's a hot topic the last few years. Some people are, let's get rid of it. And some people are like, we can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of it. It was first proposed by Benjamin Franklin in 1874 in the U.S. In 1874, basically to save on candle usage, more daylight in the evening hours or whatever. But it wasn't. It was almost a joke, I guess. But it was introduced in the U.S. in 1918, World War I. And that was to save on fuel costs, which, lights and whatnot. But at the time, they called it wartime, not daylight savings, wartime. It was abandoned after World War I because they didn't need it anymore. And but the states were given the option to keep it if they wanted. And I didn't deep dive in far enough to find out like what states decided to keep it. It was reinstituted twice. Once during World War II, again, wartime, for the same reasons. And then again, from 1973 to 1975 during the oil embargo crisis. And if any of you are old enough to remember, I mean, I was a kid, but I remember the gas lines being long and everybody worried about not being able to get gas. And then again, it was abandoned, and I guess the states were given the option to keep it again. In 1966, the Uniform Time Act was enacted, and basically they were saying we're going to keep daylight savings time. We're going to change the clocks. I think some of the states had the option to keep it or not keep it. Arizona and Hawaii both said, fuck that, we're not, You ever been to Arizona? It's hotter than hell. We don't need it to stay light out until 9 o'clock in the summer. We're just going to stay standard time. Of course, they're mountain standard time. So part of the year, excuse me, part of the year they're 1 hour different than the East Coast, and then part of the year they're 2 hours because we change our clocks, not because they change their clocks. There's a lot of arguments for and against, and I understand, like, it gets light earlier now because it gets dark earlier. So for school kids going to school, it was dangerous for them to have to go to school in the dark. Of course, they still have to do it at the beginning of the school year. So I don't know why we do it when we do it. It doesn't really, I know they all start school at different times, but it seems a little ridiculous to let them, go to school. Now, I'm right? I'm discombobulated from the time change a little bit. I mean, it's only an hour, but it seems to disrupt me for a few days until I get back used to it. But then they say that changing the clocks gives, there's more heart attacks and strokes and this and that, and it messes up your body clock. So none of that. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that it messes up your body clock, because if that's the case, then why aren't we just sticking to one thing, and eventually everybody will be completely used to it. I mean, your days are going to get longer and shorter just based on, the way the sun is in relation to the earth, but or the earth to the sun, however you want to say that. But yeah, it's just because it gets dark it starts getting dark at like 4:30. It's not really dark until 5:30 or whatever right now. But it feels like once it starts getting dark, it's like, oh shit, it's almost 7 o'clock already. But it's not. It's like it's almost 5 o'clock right now, or 5:30. I don't know. Should we keep it? I mean, should we keep daylight savings time? Keep doing it? Or should we just land on daylight savings time and just keep daylight savings time, or should we keep standard time? I think we should just, like I said, just pick one, and eventually everybody's going to adjust to it, and it is what it is. It gets dark when it gets dark, and it gets light when it gets light. I always thought it was for farmers, which never made a whole lot of sense to me. But those are the stories I always heard. Oh, we started it for the farmers. Well, no, farmers work from sun up to sundown, basically, because they work during daylight hours. So if it gets light at 6 o'clock in the morning, they're working at 6 o'clock in the morning. And if it gets dark at 9 o'clock at night, they're working until 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter whether it's 6 or 7 or 8 in the morning. They work when it's daylight, so they can work. They still have basically the same amount of hours of daylight. I'm kind of in favor of the longer days, just because you can get more done later in the afternoon when people get out of work and this and that. It's not like, because if you have to commute for work, you're going in the dark anyways, and then you're coming home in the dark. So when do you get any shit done outside that you need to get done? But I'm so used to it being the way it is that I'm used to, like, in the fall and winter, it just gets dark earlier because I've been doing it basically my whole life. But I am in favor of, I mean, I do prefer the longer days, like I said, but I think we should just stick to one or the other and just be done with it. Whether it's, like I said, whether it's daylight savings or if it's just standard time, let's just quit changing the clocks twice a year, because you're talking about health issues. Like, if we stop doing it, that doesn't make any sense to me. Seems like it would create more health issues because we're changing the clocks twice a year, and it fucks your system up for a week or whatever. Anyways, I'm going to move on from that. Realizing my own mortality lately. It's kind of an odd thing, but I just been having some physical problems lately, and you realize, Jesus, I'm just fucking getting old, man. My hips and back have been bothering me a lot lately. I think some of the hip issues are from push mowing this yard and just working through the pain, and I did it for 2 summers. And I think this summer, towards the end of the summer, it just got to the point where, like, you can't do this shit anymore. And it's not just the mowing the lawn. It's this yard is like, if you know what a golf ball looks like, it's got all these little divots. Well, imagine a golf ball that had completely different size divots, but that's just a whole yard. So your feet are never, like, straight. They're down, they're sideways, they're back, they're just every step is different. You're not walking on any flat ground. And I think it just took a toll on my hips for some reason. My wife says I've got bursitis. I'm like, I've heard of bursitis. I didn't know it. It's just basically an inflammation. The thing of it is, though, is I haven't push mowed the lawn quite a while, and it doesn't seem to even get much better. I borrowed the neighbor's riding lawnmower the last time. I mowed the whole yard. And the time before that, I mowed basically 2/3 or at least half with the rider. So it's been a while since I've actually push mowed the entire yard. I want to drink this tea while it's still warm. Yeah. I went to Home Depot one day last week, and I don't know, I was looking for a storage bin or something to fit the spot where I was, would like to put the mini Cobalt toolbox. But I wanted to just go see what Home Depot had back there as far as storage bins and things like that. They didn't have any mini toolboxes. I looked. But anyways, the storage shit's all the way in the back of the store. And of course I parked out in the, North 40 in the parking lot. By the time I walked all the way in and got all the way to the back of the store, my hips started hurting so bad. I was like, I was actually nervous that I wasn't going to be able to walk back to my car. So I was at Home Depot much longer than I wanted to, because I'd walk a little ways down and just kind of look at shit until my hips felt a little better, and then I'd continue on, and needless to say, I made it back to my car, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this. But it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. But I see all these videos on TikTok, and where like these people are like, oh, when I was in my 20s or when I was young, this is me on a Friday night or whatever, and now, and it's like you're literally in your 30s right now. And you're not old when you're in your 30s. It's just, you might feel like you're a little bit older because you are a little bit older, but if you're whining and pissing about your 30s, you're going to be a miserable fucking 55-year-old. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because the shit I was doing at 30 or in my 30s, I was working most of the jobs I had. I worked super long hours. I was on my feet all the time. And I still went out and had fun when I was off work. And I got up early and I went to work, and you don't bounce back nearly as fast as, at 35 as you did when you were 25. But you're not old. You got a ways to go. And I'm going to be 55 next month. And mentally, I don't feel 55, but physically lately, I feel every bit of 55. But like I was saying, the shit I did, that's probably why I feel the way I do now, or part of the reason. But it definitely gets worse if you're in your 30s. Wait till you hit your 40s, 50s, even worse. I can't tell you what 60s are like because I'm not there. But when you get into your 50s, it seems like every day you wake up. I wake up every day, and I have to figure out, like lately, it's just been my back and my bursitis. My damn bursitis is acting up. But if my elbow doesn't hurt, my neck hurts. If my neck doesn't hurt, one of my toes hurts, or one of my fingers hurts, or my knee hurts, or something hurts, or I got something growing somewhere weird, and so you're in for a lot of fun. Believe me, it's I don't know the word. It's an adventure. Let's put it that way. If you want to call it an adventure, I didn't say it was a fun adventure. I just said it was an adventure. And like I said, I haven't and don't take the best care of myself. I don't sleep well, and that's just how I am. I go through spouts of insomnia. Hell, the other night, of course, I did fall asleep early. The other night, I was trying to watch. I guess maybe it was Sunday night football. I was trying to watch a Sunday night football game, and I fell asleep right at the beginning of the game. I was in the bedroom, had it on in the bedroom, and fell asleep. I woke up my alarm went off for my pills at 9:00. That woke me up, and I was bent out of shape because I was having a tough day Sunday with my back and stuff like that. I just couldn't get comfortable no matter what I did. I was just hurting, and I'm not a pill taker. I'll take one Advil instead of two. But yeah, I woke up and it was still in the first quarter. The game was, and it was 14-7. I'm like, oh shit, what the hell did I miss in this game? But then I basically fell back asleep. I woke up at like 3 or 3:30, and got up. I was wide awake. I got up, so I went out and had a smoke, and came back in. It was just wide awake, kind of in a panic mode. I don't know, just because I woke up abruptly. I must have been having a bad dream. I never remember my dreams. But I'm like, I don't know. So I found a movie that I've seen like 4 or 5 times, and I was watching a movie until like 4:30. I actually watched the entire fucking movie because then I got into the movie. It had been a while since I've seen it. And then I'm like, I gotta fall back asleep for a couple hours, just a couple hours. So I turned the news on at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, or turned the channel that the news was coming on, and I dozed off for about another hour and a half. I should have just got up and made coffee because I felt worse after I slept another hour and a half than I did if I would have just gotten up, probably. But like I said, I don't take the best care. I eat chips and I drink beer and smoke cigarettes. I really want to quit smoking, and I'm really just trying to figure out how to do it. I don't want to fail. I just want to actually figure out how to do it. What I'm going to, patch or gum or whatever the hell I'm going to do, or cold turkey, and just be miserable son of a bitch for a couple of weeks at least. But I'm not going to give up, pizza and Doritos. And I'm not saying that I eat pizza for every meal and I eat, 10 bags of Doritos a week. But if I'm going to get something to munch on, I usually choose, the Doritos instead of the apple or the orange. And I probably, and I like apples and I like oranges, but it's just not the same. Watching, a game on TV or something, and you want a cold Coca-Cola and a bag of Doritos or potato chips or whatever. But I'm not going to give everything up, and I know moderation. But I mean, like, if you're giving everything up that you actually enjoy in life, the foods and the things you do and all that, then really what is the fucking point? I feel like I'm going on and on and on about it. Basically, I don't want to live so long where I'm at a point where somebody's having to change my diapers. You know what I mean? So I want to enjoy my, they say like, 50s is middle age. Well, no, it's not, because it's the average person doesn't live to be 100. So 50 isn't middle age. You're over the hill a little bit. And 50 is the new 40 or whatever. It may be in a sense because, I can't do some of the stuff I did when I was younger. Like with my hips and stuff right now, until that straightens out, I can't sit down at the drums and start wailing on the drums anymore. So doing the podcast and the video shit, it's kind of my outlet, my creative outlet, because I can't do some of the stuff that I did, when I was younger. But I see TikTok videos where this is not for old people, this and that, and it's like, I know there's bullies everywhere, but this whole age thing, this generation versus that generation, and I know I've been at fault for doing a little bit of it. But just leave us old people alone. We're completely entitled to use TikTok and YouTube and whatever, Snapchats and all the other ones out there. If you don't like it, just don't watch the videos. I mean, it's TikTok. It's so, how many videos I swipe through when I'm watching TikTok? Probably about 95% of them until I land on one that I actually think is funny. Like I said, move on. If you don't like the video. It's just that easy. You don't have to make a video calling out old people and saying you're too old for this, you know. Wait till you get to be our age, because up here in our heads, we don't feel like we're 50, 60, 70, whatever age these people are that are making videos. We don't feel that way in our head. We may look older and we may physically feel older, but our brain, for the most part, with most people, it's still working pretty good. And we're just trying to have fun just like everybody else. And just on that note, your fucking generation didn't invent the internet. So if it wasn't for the internet, none of that shit would exist anyways. So, like I said, you don't like it, move the fuck on. You don't have to call people out and make them feel like shit for just trying to have fun. I think that's about all I got for realizing my own mortality. I went a little bit long in the tooth on that. Anyways, I'm going to take 5 and have a smoke. So we're going to pause this. Okay. The last thing I'm going to get into, this is going to be a relatively short episode. Not on my normal schedule, so it's kind of throwing me off. But my normal schedule throws me off too, obviously. But the hobby rabbit hole. There's all kinds of hobbies. People have all different kinds of hobbies. Some of them are expensive hobbies, and some of them are less expensive hobbies. You know, some people collect rocks. All my hobbies, basically through my whole life, have been on the more expensive side. A musician, you know, musical equipment is not cheap. Drums, cymbals, sticks, heads, pedals, you know, stands. There's always, you know, a rack. There's always something that, you know, there's always the next thing you need with all the hobbies. And especially with all the hobbies that I'm into. I still want drum stuff, and I'm not even playing my drums right now. You just always need this or that. There's always something, and when you upgrade a little bit, then you realize, oh shit, I got to upgrade even higher. You know, when I first started doing, when the pandemic hit, that's when I first started doing like the YouTube thing, and I was just using my GoPros and the Q8 and all that. Then I realized, oh shit, I need lights. So I made some cheap lights. I actually did a video of, you know, I took like, we used to call them the chicken lights. They're like the aluminum thing that's got a light bulb in the center, and they got a clip that you can clip them on. And I just took like an old white t-shirt and cut it up so it fit over, and put a rubber band around it as like a diffuser, so it softened the light. And they worked, you know, halfway decent, but there was one bright, it was on or off. That was it. And so when you're on a budget and you're trying to do this kind of stuff, you buy lower end stuff that works for a while, and then you realize it's like, you know, my lighting's only going to be so good. And my lighting is a work in progress. I know if you don't watch the video, you're not going to see it. It's adequate. It's fine. I'm not, you know, shooting professional. I'm not doing this for somebody else, and it's got to be like perfect, because I'd be going nuts. But if I was making money doing it, then I could afford to upgrade periodically certain things. But, you know, I have a choice to make. Do I upgrade lights, or do I upgrade and get a different lens for the camera, especially now that I have the new camera, which I'm loving right now, and it's great. And, you know, I bought 2 lenses, but the seating position here, the way I've got it right now, because that's another thing, studio, trying to, I went overkill. I think it's too busy behind me, but it is what it is. It's better than just looking at a blank wall as far as I'm concerned. I think it's neat to see what people have in their videos and see what, they have in the background and on their shelves and stuff like that. Even like, the football shows, when somebody's at home in their home office or whatever, and they've got it set up so it looks decent behind them, and they got a football and a helmet or a trophy or whatever. You're always trying to look and see what it is. Yeah, there's always something, but like I was saying, I can't reach and turn the camera on and off from here, and they make a remote for this. There's an app that supposedly, nightmare stories about the app that it doesn't work, and you have to reconfigure everything every time you turn the camera off, and it's like, well, the remote would be nice because I can start the video, I can stop the video, I can, if I wanted to just take a picture, so that would be nice. The P4 is right here, so I can control that right here because it's close, but the camera I can't. So again, there's, I buy a nice camera, and when I bought it, I financed it, and I got one other lens. The lens I'm using came with it. It's like a 18 to 45 millimeter kit lens that came with the camera. They had a different option, they had a couple of different options, different price ranges, and this was the lens that I thought would be the one I would use more. And then I bought what they call the Nifty 50, which is a prime lens. It's fixed 50 millimeter lens, but they say that's one that every photographer or whatever should have in their camera bag. It's great for like going out and just, if you just want to take one lens and go out, you can do quite a bit with that lens. If you're just out and about, you need to get closer to something to make it closer, then you get closer to it. Street photography type shit, basically is what that's for, I guess. But it'd be nice to have another battery for this camera. So because I intend to use it more for video than photography. Not 100% sure what the weather's going to be like Saturday. Like I said, Faith is having her birthday party Saturday with their friends, and I thought it would be fun for me to go over and use my new camera. And it's not brand new. I've had it for 4 or 5 months now. But I kind of was in that lull where Dana Lee left and Marnie left, and so I wasn't doing a whole lot. So the camera didn't get a lot of use until recently when I'm really trying to use it. And so I thought it would be an opportunity to go just take some pictures and learn how to use the camera a little bit more. But it might be rainy, so this camera is not weatherproof, so I won't be taking it if it's rainy. Like I said, I already need a new battery. Well, I don't need a new battery, but it would be nice to have another battery, a fully charged battery in your bag, and the one in the camera is starting to go dead, so you just pop in the new one and you can charge the other one. But there's always something that you need. Doing the podcast stuff and all that, you need a USB interface or USB mics. I mean, back when we first started with Dub doing my first podcast, everything was USB. I bought like a blue microphone, a Snowball, and that's what I was using. It's a great little USB mic, but Dub moved on and got an XLR mic, and then I was like, all right, I got to get an XLR mic now. So you get kind of a competitive thing. Plus, you want, you're doing 2 people on a podcast. You want, similar setup. But USB interface to record through. That's basically the PodTrack P4. I've used a bunch of different ones. I used to record straight into the computer. I still have my other USB interface that I use at my computer, so I can use headphones or my monitors. But then mics and cables and stands. It's just you know, XLR mic, you got to get an XLR cable, and then you got to have a stand for it. And you know, I wanted the broadcast, the scissor, you know, microphone stand, you know, the ones that have the springs on it and you can move them around. And this table we built for that, we drilled the holes in it so we could mount because the damn flanges, stupid flanges that you permanently mount, they're like $40 and $50 a piece. And I'm like, I'm not spending that kind of money just to put these microphones on it. So there's holes in the table with so Dan Lee will love this. It's not PVC. I can't remember what it is, but it fit in perfectly. I bought a long piece for like $2 at Lowe's. Just cut them down to the size I need and slide them in the insert so the mics weren't spinning on the wood and wearing the wood out. Anyways, you can't see any of that stuff, and I don't know why I'm getting into it that deep. My point is that there's always something, and the lights, you need stands for the lights, you need diffusers or whatever. And with the camera stuff, camera like lenses, lenses are way expensive, so I'm not going to be spending a ton of money on lenses, because you'll spend a ton of money on one lens, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, what my next lens is. Is it going to be like a super wide angle, or is it going to be a zoom? And I'm kind of leaning toward, because this is an 18. The lens I was looking at was a prime lens, 16 millimeter, and I'm like, is it really worth getting a fixed 16? I mean, because it's only going to be, I'd only use it to shoot the podcast, basically, for the most part. Whereas a nice zoom lens, this one goes to 45 millimeter. I'd like something more, like if I'm taking pictures of the birds, I want to be able to sit in the chair and not disturb the birds, but get in close enough to zoom into them, or the squirrels, or an insect, or whatever, where you're not getting so close to it where it freaks out and takes off. So I'm kind of leaning towards zoom, but like I said, lenses are expensive, so it's going to be, I haven't even paid off the camera yet, so I can't buy any more lenses. But tripods, I got the cool tripod for Christmas, and just recently bought a desktop tripod because I was originally planning on doing this at the desk. But I'm a little bit close. Nobody wants to see me really close up. At least I wouldn't think that anybody wanted to see me that close up. If I have a booger in my nose, I don't want somebody seeing it and me sitting there for an hour and a half with a booger in my nose. This way you probably wouldn't see it. But anyways, it's a mini tripod, but it's a really good tripod, and I know I'll use it for some other stuff. But like I already said, batteries and lights. And then, like, I had an old laptop back during the COVID and stuff like that, and I was trying to edit video on this old laptop, and man, that thing was it was working hard, and it was so old that a lot of the like what I use now, DaVinci, it would barely even function on that computer. So I was due for a new computer, so I went out and I bought a gaming computer. After doing a bunch of research on, what kind of processor I needed and what kind of graphics card I needed. And, I'm not so, like I said, I'm getting old. So like this 4K shit I'm not like super like crazy. Like I need 4K. I'm not going to be able to tell that much of a difference on my computer monitor when I'm editing. And my TVs aren't 4K or anything like that. But I did need a computer that would actually run the editing software. So you have computer, and just recently, when I lost all the video from this camera, I think what happened was I didn't have a good enough data cable, and I think just during the transfer, the file transfer, it just corrupted the two files and basically just wiped them out. So I had to go out, and because this is a desktop computer, it does not have, and it's a gaming computer, it does not have an SD card reader. All these devices, cameras and stuff, the P4 all have SD cards. And so I went out and I bought a SD card reader. That was my latest purchase. And you can pick those up pretty cheap. I was going to buy like the super cheap one. I looked at them online, but when I actually went to Best Buy, I was looking at two that were a little bit more expensive. And I just thought it was worth it to get one that looked like it was going to be a little easier to use. But yeah, I mean, the hobbies I'm into are all just super expensive. Like my wife, she does embroidery, but not with a machine. She hand embroiders, and it's compared to my hobbies, it's super cheap because she needs floss, which is like the thread, and canvas, and the rings that you put the canvas into the ring, and there's some other things that she could use, but comparatively it's significantly less expensive than all this shit that I'm into. But we're only here once, and you got to do the things that you enjoy doing. And so, like, we never go in over our head on stuff. I'm very money conscious. I'm constantly worried about money. My wife knows when I start looking at something, and 6 months later I'm still looking at it and watching videos about it, like the mirrorless camera. I spent months trying to figure out, like, if I was going to buy one, which one would I buy? And it obviously came down to money, because if money wasn't an object, I probably would have bought a $3,000 camera. But I couldn't afford a $3,000 camera, and I didn't really. I wouldn't even know how to fucking start with a $3,000. So I was more looking at an entry level to an intermediate, one that I could grow into, and this camera was the perfect one. There was some other cameras that were really nice that had certain options that this one didn't, and vice versa. This one had some stuff that the other ones didn't. I like the look of this camera. I like the hand grip on this camera. The menu system on the Canon cameras is so much easier to use than on the Sony camera, supposedly. So I pulled the trigger on the Canon EOS R10, and a gimbal. I'd really like to have a gimbal. Now, I don't need a gimbal because I don't walk around holding the camera out in front of me, and I have other ways I can actually do that without a gimbal. A gimbal's nice. But I remember before I had a camera, you could buy like just a good old-fashioned gimbal, that didn't have any buttons and didn't snap the... I don't need it to do all that. The camera's right there. If I can hit record or whatever, I get it. For photography, it might be nice to have the shutter button on the thing, and it plugs into the camera and controls it. But gimbals are like $300-$400, and it's like, yeah, I guess I'm not getting a gimbal anytime soon either. So a battery and the little remote will probably be the next things that I buy, and then. After that, I'd like to upgrade my lighting a little bit. But I don't know why I'm telling you what I'm going to buy. Maybe when I buy it, I'll show you. I just wanted to. I was just thinking about it today. The hobby rabbit hole, and it's like you just deep dive, and you're always looking at, well, that'd be neat to have, and that'd be neat to have, and then you like find out how much it is, and you're like, I'll put that one on the back burner for a while. But anyways, folks, I'm going to call this an episode Thanks for listening, watching. If you do, much appreciated. And I am the kid. We'll catch you next time.